Welcome back to the BWP video series. I'm Ms. Farney Shamp, a sophomore teacher here at Bioscience, and your guide in these videos. Today, we'll be tackling step 2 of the process, analyzing the problem. In this step, you'll really dig into the research. You'll understand the challenge, why it's happening, what the consequences are, and who is affected. You'll create a challenge constellation. This documents all of your research. It requires a lot of work, but it's something that you'll reference throughout the rest of your project. Here's a little bit more about the challenge constellation and this step. Here's some key vocabulary you'll need to know for this step. The challenge constellation is a thinking map that helps you and others clearly see the complexity of the challenge. The challenge constellation documents the drivers of the problem. We use the word driver instead of cause because we aren't concerned with direct causation at this point in the process. We do want to consider multiple reasons or drivers that factor into the creation of the problem. We'll discuss direct and indirect drivers when we look at an example of a challenge constellation later. You'll also illustrate as many impacts or results of the problem as you can think of. After analyzing the problem, you'll choose a root driver. This is an important part of the process. The root driver is what you or your group see as a key factor in contributing to your problem. In a later step, you'll use the root driver to choose your intervention. The idea is by fixing the root driver, you can truly have a significant impact on changing the problem for the better. Now, let's look at an example of a challenge constellation. Remember, for these videos, we'll look at the project that a group of teachers did about a problem we care about. Here's the challenge constellation we made. Please use it as a guide in your own work. To start a constellation, you'll always put the challenge statement in the middle. Here's ours. There is a severe teacher shortage in Arizona. To the left, you'll place the direct drivers of your problem. The direct drivers are your answers to the question, why is this problem happening? You'll want to keep the constellation as organized as possible by color-coding the drivers and keeping them in a linear column. Next, further left, you'll think about indirect drivers. You'll find these by asking why again. For example, for our challenge, we found that teachers are leaving the profession because of low salaries, the direct driver. Then we asked, why are salaries low in Arizona? That's due to a lack of state investment in education, an indirect driver. A strategy for finding indirect drivers is to ask the 5 whys. With the 5 whys strategy, you keep asking why 5 times or until you can't anymore. You should use the same strategy in your own project. On the right of the challenge statement, we organize the impacts. These are the results of the challenge persisting. Some impacts we saw of the teacher shortage in Arizona are low test scores for students, overcrowded classrooms, and more teacher burnout. As you can see, just like the drivers, the direct impacts of the problem can lead to more and greater impacts. Keeping this side of the constellation as organized as possible by color coding, organizing bubbles into columns, and using arrows will be essential. Your teachers will help you create your own challenge constellation using platforms like Canva or Google Slides. It's also helpful to use a whiteboard or paper and pencil to create drafts of your challenge constellation. You might find that as you do this, some things can be both impacts and drivers. Your arrows might start to go in multiple directions. This is normal. These problems are often really complicated. Try your best to keep your graphic as organized as possible. After you finish the constellation, you'll choose your root driver. At this point, you'll really understand your problem, and you'll make an educated guess as to which indirect driver is responsible for most of the issue. Indicate your root driver with a star. A few final notes. Notice that we hyperlinked all parts of the constellation to our research about the issue. Your constellation needs to have links for your challenge statement and all of your drivers and all of your impacts. This will organize your sources, help you return to them in the future, and help your teachers and audiences see that your knowledge is backed by data. Creating the constellation is going to take you a long time. Student groups usually work on this for several weeks to a month to do it well. It'll be worth it. It'll help you create a better intervention in the long run. Lastly, your constellation isn't done after this step. You'll return to it as you learn more about your project. You can always add drivers, impacts, or people that are affected. You can even change your route driver down the road. This step of the process is a really big one and a really important one. It'll take you a lot of time, but it'll set you up for success. Please remember to come to your teachers with any concerns you have or any questions. You can always rewatch this video when you're creating your own thinking map. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck with this step.